So I wanted to do this video because apparently it's been a little bit in demand. Now, this whole topic about being black in China and what have you is something that a lot of people have been very curious, very interested to know more about. And I will try to talk a little bit about that in my own experience, because everyone's experiences are different and everyone's experiences are valid. So I just want to clarify that there's no way I'm going to be able to cover all points and facets of this because it's such a large and broad topic and issue. But I will share a few things with you all. Um, First and foremost, I don't, when you go online in terms of this whole, black in China experience thing, I don't think that you are really exposed to the larger, the larger experience, I would say, of what's happening there in China. Um, I'm between travels right now, so I'm not back in China yet, but yes, I would say that for me, overall, the experience has been very, very positive. Um, there are not a lot of issues that I've really had to deal with. Um, I'm going to just jump right in on this. People want to know about issues of racism or what have you, and I think that it's mostly issue of cultural differences, and there's a lot of lack of information. Um, there was an article where it was saying, places black people shouldn't travel, and I think China was number five or something. But let me tell you, actually, black people should travel to China because there are not enough black people in China. And I would say that because um, a lot of what's developed in terms of the perception of who you are is something that's coming mostly via the media and mostly via people who don't look like you, um, coming from the West, white people, and yeah, just flat out like that. So for you to be there in the flesh is the best representation of who you are. You are an ambassador of your culture, you are an ambassador of your history. So what you know and how you carry yourself, this is something that reflects positively about you. I can say that a majority of black people in China are coming directly from the continent, are coming from Nigeria, are coming from Senegal, Mali and Kenya and South Africa. So their experiences, of course, are going to be a bit different from those who are coming from the US or the UK or France. And even though to the Chinese, yes, everyone is seen as an African, because they see black skin, black skin equals you're an African. So for myself, I do not have an issue with my being of African descent. I am an African man. I am very clear about where my ancestors come from, who they are, what groups they came from. These are things that I do know. What I do tend to also share with the Chinese people, a lot of things coming from the historical aspect, because there's not an understanding of black people living in different places, such as the United States, or the UK, or the fact that there's black people in Brazil, in Cuba, in these different places in the Western Hemisphere. So this is something that I generally share. I tend to have mostly positive experiences, I think, because I speak the language so well that I'm able to actually communicate the information that I think is actually needed for people to understand who black people are. When you don't speak a language, there's a limited interaction, and the perception that exists, no matter how skewed or flawed the perception is, will continue to exist because you are not in a position or you may not have the tools to change the perception. And in this case, the tool is language. Language opens up the door to interaction, cultural interaction, interpersonal communication, relationships. I mean, you name it, it's the language. So, in my experience, because I speak the Mandarin Chinese so well, I'm able to break down a lot of barriers, and I'm able to have particular interactions and experiences that I think other people maybe they don't have this. Maybe they don't have a certain level of guanxi, they don't have a certain level of support or connections or relations with people because the language is lacking. So it is true that in certain parts of China you go, there's this extreme curiosity about your skin and about your hair and about everything about you. Because there are places that, of course, they haven't even seen foreigners, let alone black people. And then even in the big cities, you have, of course, this consistent rural to urban migration. So you're always going to find somebody who hasn't seen a foreigner, somebody who hasn't seen a person of African descent. That will is you're going to experience that. So, of course, how you take that is definitely up to you. In terms of any particular discrimination, the Chinese academic system, in terms of dealing with foreign employment, it is an issue. The general population, I would say, doesn't even have enough information or interactions with black people to truly make any kind of say so about who can and can't teach English. The academia, on the other hand, has this notion that if you're not white, particularly from a country where English is the mother tongue, then you are not qualified to teach English because you're not seen as authentic enough, and your English is not seen as authentic. So there is almost, if I can say, a hierarchy in terms of how people are hired. You know, if you're white, preferably American or Canadian, followed by, if you're white, preferably from the UK, followed by those whites who come from countries where English is not the standard language. You can be from Poland or from, Ukraine or somewhere, and, so this is whole strata of how they do the hiring. I myself have done a lot of different things in China, so I never really had to rely on teaching English, although I have taught English. In terms of interviews, and this is probably coming from my personality, interviews in the United States or interviews wherever I have had interviews in my life, I have never been denied work. I have never failed an interview. And this has also been the case in China. Generally, when I have an interview for whatever I'm interviewing for, I am always awarded that position. I'm not going to deny the reality. I'm not going to deny the experiences other people have because I know they exist. I've seen the ads online, Beijingo.com. I mean, there are a number of different, even Craigslist. And you can go, yes, and you will see white teachers preferred, yada, yada, yada. So I'm not going to deny that these different things exist because it is a problem. It is an issue. However, I do stress that more black people do need to travel to China, particularly African Americans and black people from the Western Hemisphere, because, for business, for academics, for government, etc., people from the continent of Africa are definitely traveling to China, living in China, and creating different realities and relations through that. But for people of African descent coming from the West, and particularly from the United States, there is a such a heavy misconception about life in the world outside of the United States, and this utter fear and ignorance when it comes to travel. So we are not properly represented in China. We are not there to be ambassadors of who we are and our history and our culture and this kind of thing. So what can I say? I definitely think more people need to get over there and travel. You know, you don't have to. There's many and not to mention the economic opportunities that exist currently, and many foreigners are actually traveling there for business, for a number of different things. So I would also suggest that more African Americans go over there, even for economic reasons. You know, be an entrepreneur, you know, go do business, go teach English, go do something. But the experience has been definitely one that has continued to unfold, continue to blossom. And I would stress again the key of learning language, because language is definitely the key to the city, the key to the country when you're in China. It's definitely something that opens up a lot of doors. And when you're in there, you just shut it down, you know, because who you are in terms of your brightness, your intelligence, you know, your culture, your presence is something in itself enough to give people what they need to know about who you are and where you're from. So there's a lot of hawking and gawking about the black in China, what's going on, what's going down, who's perceiving what are the perceptions and what have you. But you create your reality and you create your experiences. I am not a victim, and I would hope that others are not going into these experiences with a victimized or an impoverished mindset, because this is something that's going to draw negative experiences to them. Be the one who is directing the show and directing the experiences as they unfold, and take each experience as it comes. You know, what is being said to you, what is being shared with you, or whatever interactions is happening, be the one to visualize and determine and manifest something that's positive and beneficial for both the African and for the Chinese.